Cornucopias is a cutting-edge open-world MMO set in a world where humanity has ascended from the Earth's surface and created a breathtaking new world in the sky. This fantastical realm is a system of floating islands carved from the land we once called home, now encased in radically advanced dome-shaped structures suspended high above the clouds. Each one is a futuristic marvel with its own unique environment, identity, and thriving communities. It is within these domes the epic journey begins. Here, players take control of their own personal avatar, which gives them the freedom to choose their destiny. Be immersed in vast landscapes, explore vibrant settlements, and engage in a myriad of activities such as crafting, commerce, combat, racing, and more. Welcome to a world where the sky is no longer the limit.
Hey everyone, welcome to COPICafe. This is episode 124. We're still building and we're glad to have you here. We've got Rob Gregg here and Josh Jones and an exciting episode up ahead. We're going to talk a little bit, well, this is new to some of you and some of you might have discovered already in an announcement, the nodes. We're going to talk a little bit about the nodes dashboard. We've got a special guest coming on and quite a few topics we'll be discussing with him: combat, mining, apartments, crafting, good stuff like that. And then, of course, as always, we're going to have a leak and some questions at the very end. So before we get going, Rob, what are you drinking today, sir?
Today I have, I don't know if you have this in America. You may do. 7-Up.
7-Up. Yeah, we have 7-Up in America.
Like a lemonade-y, spritey kind of flavor.
Nice. I don't think you've had that one before. I also have not had this one before. Cheers. If you can guess what I'm drinking, it's a big prize for you.
A cup of tea.
No. I'm drinking a C4 energy drink. And to be quite honest, I haven't had this flavor before. It's been in my fridge for quite a while and I do not enjoy the taste, which is good because I have a backup protein drink as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, you're right. I've never seen that before.
You definitely have not seen that one before, but okay, here we go. Let's kick this off. Nodes dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. Some of you might have seen this, but let's bring up the Nodes dashboard real quick here. Righty, here we go. So, Rob, you want to talk us through this? It's pretty sweet.
Yep. So this is a view for the people that have a public nodes. They're wanting to have their nodes public. Greg has developed a method where we can list them on some kind of variables. We're calling them strength, so that's availability, the amount of data that they've pushed through, and all kinds of things. It's a guide at this stage, but the main things about this, it will help people that want to delegate to see where spaces are and potentially who might have really reliable pools, because obviously when this comes down to performance rewards, then those that have a really good performance will be having the maximum performance rewards.
Yep.
You can also click into them, get a bit more information on them.
So this is Ignition.
I like that name. So yeah, so when you are choosing your delegate, you can really have a good drill in, or if you're another node operator, you can, and maybe yours is not doing as well, you can have a nosy see what other people are doing. Yeah,
which is great. So is it they have the option of setting this up in our system where they're showing their pool or not showing their pool?
It's because we want to be transparent. If your pool is public, then it will be shown and within this list and be searchable. If you're having a private pool, then it won't be shown.
Okay, so a private pool would be somebody that wants to operate their own pool, but they've got their own website and they have another way of getting people to delegate.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could you might just have your own set of pools, and you just want them running, and you might not want them running 24 hours a day, and therefore you know you don't you would just treat it however you want it.
Okay. Well, obviously here in this drill down view, we show check-in counts, request success rate. That's, is your pool reachable? Is it on? Is it working? Delegation counts and the speed as well, which is definitely important
Yep.
to keep that speed high. Very cool. All right. Anything else we need to cover on this? Obviously, you've got filters here, so you can filter to see the end user can. If you're a delegator and you want to delegate to a pool, you can look at how well the pool's doing. And just as a heads up to everybody, the rewards are evenly split currently among all node holders. However, the whole point of this is providing a quality experience for the newcomer into Cornucopias that is basically downloading the game. They need to have a reduced attrition rate. It's a large game file download. We're trying to make sure that everybody coming in to Cornucopias has a good startup experience. And that's what this is about. So clearly in the future, we're going to need to change the reward structure where it is incentivizing having a quality running node. And that will change that gradually over time so we don't shock anybody, whatever. We're trying to give you a heads up that we're moving in that direction. So it's a good idea for you guys to get in here and start setting up your nodes now and your node pools if you want to operate a public pool. But for the people that don't want to operate a pool, you can come in here and look at the different categories. You can filter by what's available, what's not available, by region. And then you can also filter by the strength of the pool, etc. So this is brand new, so there's not a ton of data on here yet. In fact, I guess it was Wednesday. By the time we air this, you might have heard about it, and it might be more filled out. But yeah, this is early stages, and this is where you can figure out who you want to delegate to and how you want to do that. Anything further from you, Rob?
It's version 1, so obviously we'll take feedback and it'll evolve. But yeah, currently at the moment, nobody can delegate, so everybody is receiving rewards whether you're live or not. But
yeah, exactly. And that will change. We will change that gradually. And there's no perfect solution for how we change that. But the idea is that we're creating an incentive to have a quality running node. Therefore, our new people that we're going to be marketing to, and mainstream gamers and all sorts of new gamers that are coming in to play Cornucopias, are going to have a really good startup experience. And that's what we're going for here. Okay, I think we're at the point where we can bring up our special guest. You might have guessed it, but it's David. We're going to try to have more team members up as well. But welcome, David. Welcome to COPICafe, episode 124. Good to have you here.
Hello, that's me again.
What are you drinking, sir?
Something very, very premium. So everybody knows about this.
Premium.
This is the cold coffee that you're still drinking because you got too busy. Forgot to drink it all. So I got that, and of course I got the Stanley to stay hydrated.
Nice. You gotta have the Stanley there. The hydration, the cold and coffee. The dehydration with the coffee. The two kind of
they balance out. It's all about balance. Yeah. So
okay, so well, let's get right into it, man. We got some good stuff to talk about with you. You want to jump into crafting first, or?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about crafting. I think we probably need to talk about it in the context of not this release that's coming out very soon, but in next release. There's a lot of things that are aimed for that particular release, and I'm very excited about it. As I was telling the community, exponential increase in features now that a lot of core systems have been done, but crafting you will see in some capacity, but I can't talk about crafting without talking about mining, because you need raw goods in order to do some crafting. So should I just talk about what's planned for next release?
Sure, and I
outright?
think,
Should we?
what might be good, since we just recently
Yeah.
brought Georgia on, is to talk about a little bit of what she's done as well, and then
Yep.
kind of, but yeah, do what you just said, but also maybe include what Georgia's done so far and where we're at.
So it's the basic structure that we need for the crafting system. So as the community might know, that's been in planning for a while. I think we had a COPICafe a while back where we talked about crafting benches and specializations and all of that. So our crafting is not Minecraft type crafting. It's a little bit more complicated. So she's been working on the entire data structure, how that actually functions like in game. What's not really done right now is the user interface. It's a very basic thing right now, so we're trying to get that polished up. And a crafting system is something that's ongoing work. You're always adding new things that people can craft, changing recipes, keeping up with them, thinking about game balance. There's a lot that's going to go into that over time, but I want to get people to start using that basic crafting system in the release after this one. Excuse me. So I'm getting all choked up here. It's all too exciting. So
It's very emotional.
You got me tearing up.
Yes,
I need a tissue.
But what does that look like in the next release? That most likely looks like I go into a mine, I get some rock, I beat up the rock dies, and then I take the rock stuff. It sounds like a robbery, but it's not that way. So I think you guys have seen the pay dirt that you can get before. You've seen that you can get mining ore. You're going to take that out of the mine. You have to survive with it and not fall into a pit and die. But you have to get out of the mine and go to what we call just a processor is what we're calling it right now, a mining processor. So it's like a machine. You feed the raw ore into it. You're going to get something that's a little bit more refined. You put your pay dirt in. You might get something special. That's kind of like a little lottery thing. You might get some extra bits there from the floor of the mine. And then what that machine is going to give you is things that you can actually use for the crafting system. From that point, you're going to go to an actual crafting bench. And I'm not sure the capacity of that one with the other things that are going to be coming out, but you're going to be able to go to a crafting bench, at least in a town, and be able to create some goods. And then you've got some goods that you can actually sell and starting to get a little bit of an economy going on. There's kind of an extra layer on this stuff in the future. Once we get a lot of this stuff sorted out, is you've got to have a player market that's inside of the game and where people can buy and sell goods to each other. That's kind of the cherry on top of the cake once you get all of these systems working. So, but yeah, that's crafting in the state right now. It's Georgia seems like she's doing a really great job. It's coming along, and and hopefully be able to do some crafting.
Awesome. Very, very exciting. I'm ready for that, and I guess people are going to be quite curious. Expected ETA on that build that you're talking about, but I'm not going to ask you for an ETA on that. But that is a big build, so it's not something we can go. And also maybe give them some context, because we try not to give a timeline on builds now because of the complexity of game building. So I asked you earlier while we were planning COPICafe, how much confidence do you have in that? Or it was Rob that asked you, one of us asked you that, and you said none. And what you mean by that is, could you give some context there?
Yeah. So I think I was talking to somebody in the community about this, but I mean, roadmaps are roadmaps. You can say, hey, we're going to have a build at this time at the end of the month. There are so many things. So, if you look at our source control, thousands, tens of thousands of changes will go into the project between each release. And sometimes systems have issues with other systems. We have to change old systems to make something work because we added a new feature, and whatever we planned for a certain date, well, every time something like that happens, a little thing or a little bug or a problem we come across, well, it adds a few days, or sometimes we come up to something that adds 3 weeks. So it's very, we can say that, hey, this is when we intend to release and what we would like, but it's it's usually not the case. And as the game becomes more complex and we're building more, you're getting more, but the releases might take a little bit longer now.
I'm thinking of one specific example, not to break your train of thought. So if you
Sure.
had something there,
Like, if you look at the Avatar system, right?
Avatar is
now.
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So before we had, I think we did an upgrade or a change to the Avatar system. Maybe it was when we switched to Avatar 2.0. It caused a significant amount of bugs in the system that we had to work through at the last minute. And that delayed us by about a week, or maybe it was 2 weeks on the release time. Is that something we expect with Avatar 3.0? Or
Yeah, I mean, that stuff's already been going on because we developed the combat. So you got a whole IK system, you got the movement with all the guns, and you've got a new skeleton and a new structure and a new avatar that's being worked on at the same time. So, one of them gets somewhere and then it causes a problem with another one, and then we have to go back and forth a little bit, and just, it's a tight group of folks that are making sure that happens, but there's constant problems. It's, we had an issue the other day. It's kind of funny. I was turning around with a gun doing something like that, and my insides just, it's like I broke the fourth dimension and I just twisted around backwards on myself, and you end up with problems like that. And the team's like, what the heck is going on? I mean, these things pop up out of nowhere, and then we have to look at control rig and figure out why when we rotate this far is suddenly we're flipping over. It's almost like gimbal lock, and we're twisting our spine. So little things come up like that, but it's not just one or two of those. We have hundreds of things that come up throughout a development process. So This is not a small single player 2D type indie game. There's a lot of moving parts here, but we're moving along pretty well. So,
like you said, with the crafting, it's not just crafting. Mining comes with that. That's an entire loop and space within itself.
Yep. It's mining is in a way is like its own little. It's almost like a combat system in a way. You're fighting the rocks. That's why I was joking initially, but rocks have damage. You break one down, you've got to, have all the mechanics. It's got to work with the skeleton. You don't want anything to look too janky, and then it's got to work with the inventory systems. Players have to be able to gather up what comes out of there. So it's everything that we do is going to touch multiple systems.
What do you think will be that initial release of mining? Are you planning on lots of mines, or maybe just one big mine to start off with?
Well, I think maybe 1 to 2, because we also have a lot of other things that are coming out.
Per sector or across all 3 solaces?
I think right now we're dealing. Well, okay, I'll go and say this. There's possibly a mine that's in the release that's about to come out in Solus 1. So sorry, I couldn't say it without saying that. But
okay, be available.
So yeah, so
but not for mining, just to have a look around and caveman drawings.
Sure, yeah, and the way those are built, by the way, what we actually do is, those aren't actually in the world per se. We actually build those in separate levels, and they actually get streamed in at the entrances. So we have a lot of folks that we can put on once we're like, hey, this is the way mines are working. Community has tested it. They like it. They don't have any issues with it. Then I can say, all right, let's go build 10 more mines.
And that was my point. Don't expect mining to be everywhere you see a mining thing. We might start with 1 or 2, and then when we've got the feedback, then we'll roll it out.
Yeah, just do it that way. So I don't have to go and have somebody change 10 mines.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Once it's in there, you've got so much to change.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So that was an exciting leak there, David.
Sorry. I mean, we're just, if we talk about enough things, there'll be plenty more leaks.
So in this next build, which I cannot give you a date on, and I'm talking about the one we're working on right now. I know we're working on a few things for the following build, but you were talking about the following build for crafting and mining. But now we have in this upcoming build, which should be fairly soon, a mining level, which is very exciting. Okay, cool. Making sure we've established the clarity there. So there's one build away upcoming, and then there's the one following that. So let's talk a little bit about apartments now and riffs. Well, let's go from apartments to riffs. So what are we talking about with apartments? And that is definitely for the following build.
Yeah.
But
that's well, actually, I think the best way to put it is the building system. I think that's the best way to put it. And I know immediately there's somebody out there sitting in their chair and they're going to say, oh, now they're talking about apartments. What about the plots? What about those? I've been staring at these plots. Those are the same system. So essentially, it's the same master system that allows you to build on your plot and build on apartments, but with different allowances of what you can do on each one. So a few differences, but it's the same system. So don't worry about that. We're getting to the plots. I was telling somebody in the community recently, you're better off doing the land claim closer to when you have a functional building system, because what's the point of claiming land when there's nothing you can do with it? So we're getting there, but
yeah, I think it's very similar to how you're doing the mines. You know, the apartments is a subset of the larger building system. So that's very small, contained. Even though there might be a lot of the apartments, they're in a really small and you're almost like single player, maybe a few more players. But then when we go to moving that system to the open world land, where you've got all the land plots next to each other, there's a lot more assets that need to be shown at one point and loaded in, and then that will take lots and lots more testing, and we will learn lots of lessons from the apartments that will then go to the infinity scale of what the land looks like.
Yeah, the plots are the most, I would say, performance damaging angle for the build system. So we have to be more careful about that. And that's why on plots, you'll build more prefabs, larger stuff, some decor stuff, but it's going to be at a much larger scale. We also have to decide, well, how many are we loading? Are we loading within range? What can you see? How, somebody Jupiter out there in the community is building on his plot, and then do we see that stuff updating almost immediately? Yes.
Shout out to Jupiter. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, shout out. Hello, Jupiter. He's been in the community chat quite a bit recently. So.
Yeah.
But then when you go into your farmhouse or whatever property is, that's like being in an apartment. So you will be pre-testing some of the building stuff that happens in an apartment that will happen inside a property.
And by the way, apartment building it's nearly fully open. That's intended because we have less restrictions there. It's more like The Sims or Inzoi. You can really get down to detail. You can go in game, go to furniture stores, buy furniture that you want, set up your apartment, bring your friends over, that kind of thing. I think that's really going to get a lot of casual players. And also, to just preface this with, everybody that comes into Cornucopias gets a free smaller apartment to start. And when I say free, I mean you're not paying in real life money or copy or anything like that for it. But could there be some maintenance costs where you have to pay like some bills or you have to pay for your power? I don't know yet on that kind of thing. But I think people are going to start out, they're going to end up in the free apartments to start things. They're going to kind of build things up, and then they're going to want to move up to something bigger. So there's going to be many different tiers. A lot of people have seen the hub area that's in the middle of Solus, right? Every zone has its hub, and at the very top level, you actually have what is almost like a resort. And what we're working on right now is the logistics of that kind of situation, holding 50, 100,000 players, actual unique spaces there. And I don't think that's ever been done before. Everybody that comes, I don't think there's any game where everybody's had a very unique, legit, piece of real estate to call their own. There is games where people can just run out and build wherever they want, but it's usually a survival crafting kind of thing, and it doesn't really feel all that efficient.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is when you look out your window, unless you're in a basement, you will have a unique view.
Yeah, you're in it's your apartment. It's your little piece of the world that nobody else has. So
Your
I think it's
space
really special.
in that world, 100,000, 200,000, whatever, however many properties they are, wherever you are. And we're working on a way of being able to move quickly between them. I think that's what you explained earlier.
You also have different neighborhoods as well that's inside of those. So for a player, it's, you could end up landing, I live in this neighborhood, I live in this building, and my apartment number is this. So
it sounds crazy. It is a difficult challenge to pull off. But when you see the plans, it will make sense.
Yep.
Alrighty.
That was a lot of information.
Was there anything else we want to? This is exciting stuff, and
I think it's plenty.
I'm hoping we're including that special leak at the end of this episode. I'm sure we'll get there. You seem to have some confidence of that. But anything else we wanted to cover on apartments, or should we move on to combat rifts?
Yeah, combat,
Okay.
The rifts. Yeah. So what players are experiencing now in this next coming release is training that they're going to need. It's going to give us some feedback on targets and when things are hit, things on the server. There's the reason why we always test things smaller is so we can learn things before we go full scale. But things for rift combat are coming along, and all of those little shooting targets, people see these creatures. These are things that come out of rifts, and the goal is that players will be able to fight rifts that are opening up all over different parts of Cornucopias, and then shut them down for also a reward. I think I'm not sure if we can mention what that reward is yet. So I think I covered this in the last COPICafe, and we're just like, no, can't talk about that. But very exciting because you're getting to the kind of call to action in Cornucopias. Cornucopias is under threat, and we hope everyone participates in closing those things down. So, but I'm not going to fault you if you're somebody that just wants to go build and mining while the big boys take care of the rifts. So, and big girls. So,
and small boys and small girls.
You don't have children in the game yet. So it's
not necessarily have to be children.
Alrighty. So combat, everybody's seen an example of the temple.
You're calling
what did you call it? The Terra run?
Yeah, the Terra tunnel. It's reminding me of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it's cool. I love it. And that's coming up in this current build that's about to come out. And then after that is the rifts.
Yep, just training areas. There's actually more than one. Those Terra tunnels as well. So nice. I think in the last video, that little run through I did, there was a lot of cuts there, but it's a little bit bigger than what it looked like in that video. But there's a second stage to that as well that's more difficult from a it's a little bit more difficult to move quickly, walking across tight high beams, that kind of stuff while you're taking out targets. Also having to use crouch to go through like vents and things like that. So it's a little bit more complicated. There's possibly a stage 3 to Terra tunnels, but I'm not sure if we'll get to stage 3. We will see. Because I'm not going to say that the Terra tunnels are something temporary. There's something we're going to keep in the game, but I don't want to, something that's not a really main feature, like fighting the actual rifts. I don't want to build an absolute monstrosity out of that one thing yet. So if people like having target ranges around, they like sitting there, spending, buying ammo, sharpening their skills, then it's something we'll lean into more in the future.
Okay.
But yeah. Terra tunnels, very fun, dark, exciting. So
you just made me think of something. which might have to be cut from this episode. I don't know, but I know Rob's thinking about it, or probably has. We're going to want leaderboards for those. If there's multiple terror tunnels, we might need to get Jeff up to speed on that so that we can have leaderboards in time.
I don't know as of right now because of everything that we're currently working on. It's, because sometimes these things come down to, do you want the release is a little bit late that we're working on right now, and we want to get it out because we want to get to the next release and all the other good things that are coming then. Is it worth delaying to have a leaderboard? Is it worth it to the community? I don't know. The community can mention that. Like, would you rather us hold off this build in order to make sure that leaderboards work? Because not only do we have to create those, that's got to be built in the functionality, there's some logistics that's got to be figured out on that. Does it count the amount of targets? What if somebody just runs through and they skip all the targets? So there's a lot of things to think about that's got to be built in. And then there's the website side. Then QA is also going to spend time testing that. So I don't know. And I don't think that's something we have to cut out here. It's just, I don't know. I think the community is excited to jump in and start using their weapons and, checking out the new avatar and exploring around some of the other things. But I don't know about the leaderboard yet. It's kind of been pushed back to back burner if we get to it.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Understood. Well, that'll be a cool thing to add a leaderboard to when we can. And I'm sure the community is going to be using that to practice for rifts, etc. But at least we could gamify it a little bit more in the future. So maybe not in this build, but
definitely in the future
for the next one. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All righty. Now a little bit of a surprise conversation, though not a surprise conversation, because you and I talked about it a little bit in Discord with a community member that was bringing up some AI. I guess he was bringing up, or he or she, I'm not sure, concerns that AI can build a game, and what are we going to do? We're doomed because AI can build a game right now as it stands. And I think as always, with new technology, just to set the tone for this discussion real quick, if AI has potential to help our game, we're going to use it. We currently are using it in every area that we possibly can to expedite and speed things up. So if AI could build a game of the quality that we're building, we would be doing that to double the delivery pace and increase the delivery pace, etc. And also, if it could do all of these things, you would see tons more games out already that people would, there would just be a flood of competition, and then gaming becomes a commodity. And then it's, how do you build the best community, which we have an amazing community. So anyway, David, what is your perspective on what that person was saying? Because I told him or her that we would address it in this episode.
I left a response in there. It wasn't directly towards that person, but I just kind of wanted everyone to know I'm a big AI buff, by the way, and I always look into the latest tools. I'm super interested in the technology, and have tried to use it where we can for Cornucopias. But when you're working on a 3D game that's multiplayer of this scale, there's not a lot of things that AI can really do that well. I know there was some video where somebody was AI, prompting 3D models and sort of building an Unreal map very quickly.
And there wasn't a lot of consistency. A Pong game and stuff like that. Yeah, there's all sorts of.
People are using it in ways, and I think it will improve. But that example, it might have looked fine at a 720p video or something on Twitter, but that's the 3D models that AI produces are just not on a next gen, like, high quality level. There's no consideration for performance either. You can't have every asset in the game all have the same, not the same. You can't build a unique texture and shader for every single asset in the game. You can't do that. Your VRAM is going to go too crazy. I'll talk about other things, like we build parts of our world with 50 million poly, what we call mega formations. for building a lot of the structure itself. AI couldn't even dream about outputting that kind of poly level at detail. It just can't do it. You're looking at a few thousand polys at the most, so it can't really assist with anything in any great way. And it's, making a 2D game that is so simple to make a game like Pong or something like that compared to what we're doing here. I mean, it is just, it is absolutely minuscule in comparison. We have multiple different people, multiple different disciplines. They all have 5, 10, 15 years of experience, of knowledge on how to work on this specific aspect of Cornucopias, and 90% of those AIs cannot help with in any way right now. And again, I keep looking into it and try to use it. We've used it a little bit. We've been looking at it for like animations, like assisting with changes in animations to save some time. We've looked at it from a texturing standpoint. I would say texturing is something where it can assist more. Sometimes if we have some issue with a texture, we can take and have AI clean that up. But 3D modeling, programming, it lies to you guys. That's so one thing about a lot of these LLMs, like when you're communicating with them, they're sort of mirroring you and they're wanting to please. If they don't have an answer for you, sometimes they will tell you just absolute BS. They'll just, it absolutely just means nothing. They made it up on the spot, and dealing with an AI is a minefield of those kind of things. Sometimes they can be very useful. I've actually used ChatGPT as a wingman in voice mode while I'm going through the performance numbers in certain scenes of the game to say, hey, keep up with this number. I'm going to make these changes. Tell me what I'm going to tell you what it updates to, and you keep up with all of this chat. So AI is really good for assisting in that way, acting as a second memory and giving you insight into what's going on. But I see there's no way AI we can't just press a button and build Cornucopias with an AI. That seems very, very far away. And I know
if and when that was possible, we would use it to accelerate
what
we've already done.
We use that.
So there's absolutely no way that there's an issue here, because we're keeping our eye on what can be done with AI and what can't be done, and how do we use it to expedite what we're doing. And maybe that is at some point in the future, but that does mean that it's going to be what that would mean in the future. Let's say it's 5 years from now. What does that mean when AI can build an entire Unreal Engine game, and that means that the barrier to entry, which is right now enormous to build a game like what we're doing, the barrier to entry is enormous. So competition for our level of game and MMO and what we're building is actually fairly limited, because there's a large barrier to entry. You remove that barrier to entry in 5 to 10 years, and it becomes all about who's got the community to bring to the table, because anybody could build the product with the slightest amount of creativity. So then it's about what's your community size. So no matter what the argument with the AI is, it's going to help us to build faster. And when it can do more, we'll use it to do more. So let's build a community and let's build a game.
Off of that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because out of any industry, I would say, especially in entertainment here, game development needs AI. And I'll tell you why. And if, there might be, maybe there's some game developers that are out there. Game development is an absolutely abusive and brutal career to be in. When we want to build something, we can never have what we want. There's always problems. Anytime we say anything, we're going to have a good 40-hour week, turns into a 70-hour week. Game development, the complexity. So this comes from demand of the consumer. They want bigger, better, more awesome looking, better performing, better stories. They want better everything. That has driven game development to a point where most game developers are working extreme hours to get something done, and they're still falling short because the technology is kind of at its limits to support what a game developer needs. So it's game development's not cheap as well. AI will absolutely solve a lot of these problems. It will take the stress off of our backs and allow us to focus on really good quality bits about the game while it does some of the basic stuff for us. And we use it now, and we'll keep using it as it gets better. But game development needs that. Last point I do want to make about this is the value of things. So if tomorrow, all of a sudden, we have a super AGI that can just make a game just out of nowhere, boom, there's the next World of Warcraft. It's out there. The value of games to people are going to drop significantly because anybody can create them. And even if you, let me put it in this context. Let's say I spent a lot of time on a beautiful painting. Okay. And I spent all this time working on it, and it was very meticulous. In fact, it hurt my arm in the process. I went through some pain. I've got carpal tunnel, whatever. And I put that up for sale. And then I have an AI generate, let's just say, a painting that I printed out and put out. Which one do you think people will want to buy?
Yeah.
The one that I painted, or the one that just came from an AI? If they didn't know it came from an AI initially, they might go with the AI one. But everybody's going to know about this stuff. Games and films, and a lot of these will become just very run-of-the-mill. Oh, I can press a button and have any type of game I want. People are going to see the value in the ones that are very curated. People are using the AI the right way.
Perceived value, which also ties into the point I was making. When you remove the barrier to entry, it becomes about who can build the best community, because the perceived value has just gone down significantly. But yeah, great point. So you're talking about value. Yeah. What does it take to build what you're building?
Is what it is. You're going to have people, they're going to turn out garbage games with no consistency with AI. And then you're going to have teams like ours that has a consistent lore, consistent art style, consistent technology in the game. And those are the games that people are going to go towards, things that have consistency, because that's what humans prefer is consistency. So,
well, anyway, great answer. Good topic. For those out there that are concerned we're going to get annihilated by AI, hopefully that answers your concern. We are going to use it to the best of our abilities, and we do currently use it to the best of our abilities, and we're definitely got our finger on the pulse. But please review that content, because it's not a threat to us. In fact, it can only be a benefit at this point to what we're doing with Cornucopias. So good stuff. Okay, I think that covered all of our topics with you, David. We could probably move into questions. Rob has some for us. Maybe one for me, two for you.
Indeed. Okay, question one from Sanil GG. Is Epic Games listing end of the year? How do you vision the game to be like when it gets listed? Is there a checklist for having particular game modes active and running before you guys decide to release on Epic Games? And what are they? And I know a few people have been asking about the games listing.
Yeah. So the games listings, which could be Epic, Steam, whatever, there's going to be multiple stages to that. So stage one would be listing with waiting lists. So there's no button where they can click and come play. It's just list. They can add it as a favorite to get on to our waiting list and keep it on their watch list for new games they want to play. That would be stage one. And we should be there. We're not too far off from that. What we want to have is a decent trailer to put up there and get people excited and make them want to join the waiting list. So we'll have something like that. It's not too far off from doing that. Mm-hmm. Now, then the next stage would be more of a soft launch, which would be maybe when that following build we were discussing, if that comes together the way we'd like, then that would be our soft launch on one of those. So timing, I can't give you on that exactly, but that would be the following build from this current one that's about to come out. Now, then a hard launch would include a good amount of marketing dollars after the soft launch, when we feel like, hey, these mainstream gamers, everybody's loving what we're doing. We've done a couple more builds. Let's do a hard launch, an alpha, and really put some money behind it and get a new user base. And that could possibly be later this year. So,
and to be clear, that's also, some people will probably worry about, well, the game's not totally finished yet or something like that. We're releasing on Steam or Epic. It's still in an early access state. So
yeah.
it's they're going to understand that, but we're going to make it very clear of what features you can do now. In several months from now, you're going to have quite a bit more features than you do at this very moment. So, yeah, it's very exciting though.
Good stuff. All right.
Very good, very good. Okay, next question is from Blackstone from the Mafia. Wants to know, can we have gun maintenance in game? Have a health bar equivalent that shows when your weapon needs to be cleaned or maintained and repaired? It's only a suggestion.
Yep, that's planned. That is a cherry on top feature though, mainly. So we're gonna make sure that combat's working well. We have all the animations working proper, reloads and everything else works. We're the net side, everything before we get to an extra layer system like that. But that is planned. We even have, even your weapon as of right now, it's not turned on, can actually age as well, where it looks dirty or rusty or that kind of thing. But yes, just in the future. It's not a big feature at the moment.
Very nice. We'll sneak in one more question. Long episode this. This is from the Black Knight. Wants to know, it's been said that the load will affect the player's mobility. In this regard, will the limitation vary based on inventory usage or the weight of the inventory?
Okay, so inventory weight's not a thing. That's only spatial. So you're only concerned about space, and that was originally based on kind of the way real life is. Most of the time you're not loading stuff into your backpack to go somewhere and saying, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to go over the weight limit or not." You're just worried about how many things you can fit in there, right? So that feature, what we were actually talking about is your gear itself. And this is not something you'll see in this release that's about to come out, but you'll probably see it in the next release. Let's say that I have a big machine gun like the HG7, and I've got the OG backpack that we just put out, the jetpack, so the Rampage, 2 big thrusters on the back. Let's say I've got on heavy armor, and those are your 3 factors. So it's kind of what's on your back, what's in your hand, primary and secondary weapons, because they'll hang on you, and your outfit itself. Those 3 factors will determine how fast you can move. And that means jumping. That means when you're turning a weapon to go shoot at another target, the heavier you are, the slower those things will be. But it also means that you can absorb more damage and lay down more damage. So it's a balancer. You're going to have players that are like, hey, I want to go in and what is just about a skin suit, like super light armor. And I want to have a submachine gun, and I want to be jumping around with a light jetpack, blasting my way and taking out enemies. Then you're going to have ones that want to come in fully loaded like a tank, like completely armed to the gills. It's just a balancing feature, and I think it's a very easy one for people to understand. It doesn't have to get that complicated. So you'll have a weight rating on outfits, on weapons, on anything that goes on your back, and all of those will combine into one float, and that's what will determine
so that weight rate,
the movement speed.
Weighting only goes to what you're currently got, what you've equipped yourself with. What you could have a trillion things in your backpack, and that doesn't matter. It's what you've actually got equipped.
Yeah.
If you need to move fast, maybe you
take your clothes off,
a heavy item, and then run, and then put it back on. So that's interesting.
Yep. And we'll see if there'll be any further restrictions. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to consider for game balance and make sure the game is actually fun. So things will be subject to change, but that's the way it's going to work for now. And I think that works pretty simply. And
that stops you going back, going, right, do I take this item out? What's slowing me down? Is it this item? Is it this one? Is it item 400? Is it 401?
And you can't carry a trillion items either. So there's some strategy before you're going out. Like if you're having a rift battle and you got a couple buddies that are going to join you on that, you kind of want to have a mixture of different strategies for their loadouts when they come in. You maybe want a tank that's coming in super heavy. You want, your friend to come in super light, flying around. You could shoot with a jetpack, by the way, while you're up in the air.
Ooh.
So flying, jumping around, being a real pest to the enemy. And you might want some grunts that are just kind of in between. So I think strategy is important, and that extends out further to what kind of pack that you have on your back. In the future, there's shield packs, there's offensive weapon packs that have guns that pop out the top. There's the jet packs. It's combat here is all about strategy, per what you're dealing with and what.
But you've also got the heavy and the extra large backpacks as well, haven't you? So those are really useful. They're almost a different type of gameplay, either taking all the equipment to the battle or loading up.
Yeah, you might want to have somebody do that. What if you're actually going in a real Terra tunnel? You probably don't need a jetpack while you're in there for the most part. So think about that. So there's, everything is kind of situational. So, yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for questions. All right. Well, let's get the marketplace page up here real quick and talk a little bit about our current sale that's going on. Here we go. David, you want to talk us through any of these items real quick, or?
Well, the HG7 there, and everybody's seen that kind of recently. We've seen a meat grinder and how it grinds meat. So we see. I really like the Comro Defense Tiger M9S. I don't know. I've always been sort of like a submachine gun guy. And so I really like those. Something about like a light weapon. It's funny. I don't like things in between. I like big, heavy tank stuff, or I like light stuff, but it's a very cool weapon. The P99 there, that one actually sounds really cool. I don't think have we showed any of the energy weapon stuff? I don't think we've showed any.
I don't think we have. We don't have a
No,
video on the
we've
P99.
That thing is high capacity too. I think it holds 125 rounds or something like that.
Okay.
So I think it's the highest capacity thing that we have out, but that thing is sweet. So,
yeah, we probably need to show some pulse rifles. I think, with all of these, by the way, this sale is still active. These items are all still available at the moment. And it's Wednesday at time of taping, should still be the case, or is potentially the case when you see this. So if you haven't yet got your weapon, jump on over to the sale. Just go to cornucopias.io, click on marketplace, and you'll find it. But yeah, I'm most excited about, the meat grinder. It was just that commercial and that cinematic that was done for it that just gets me all fired up. I loved it. But I think the community would probably love to see something on the P99 for sure, since we haven't shown the pulse.
I minted a rare meat grinder. I like my steaks rare, to be fair.
Rare, to be fair.
Medium rare.
It's good stuff. Well, yeah. Anyway, you can't not talk about the sale. It's gone really, really well so far. A lot of people are fired up, sharing their mythics, etc. We've got a few of these where you could get a different rarity or whatever. A lot of fun. Get in there, and we'll see you in the marketplace. All right.
Till the sun goes away, faster than a torpedo.